have had an incredible weekend this past weekend with leaders from all over the nation, actually all over the world. And one of those leaders is Thierry Nakoa. Most of you probably know him as Thierry if you're on Facebook with him, but his name is actually Terry. And Terry had an amazing word that he and some others actually thought he really needed to share at this leadership gathering that we had. But it really never, the time didn't allow for that. And so we had to come to a place where it was like, well, we've got to cut this short. But believe that the word is significant enough and important enough that those of you who are leaders within MOW at least hear what it is that Terry has to share. So Terry, it's good to have you with us.
Yes, thank you, Papa Danny, for having me. And for everyone that's watching this, I expect that everybody that's watching this is MOW leaders. And if you're not, then you just made yourself a MOW leaders. But stretch forth your hand toward the screen, wherever you're at right now, and just say to the Lord, say, Lord, speak through this young man for what I'm about to say. And then place that same hand right on your heart and say, Lord, let me hear what the Spirit of the Lord is saying to the church. Thank you, Holy Spirit. So the Lord gave me a word prior to coming down to this meeting. And in my time of prayer, the Lord kept speaking to me. And at first I wanted to almost cower and not come, because he said to me, he said, look, there's something that is about to happen. There's a turning point that's going to happen in this meeting. And you need to be there. And I haven't left Puerto Rico in a long time. But I spoke to the Lord, and he kept telling me, he said, look, there's something that you have to do. You have to do something. And he said to me, he reminded me, he said, hey, look, when you and your wife drive around in your community, you notice different properties. And sometimes you look at the property and you say, man, this place is going to be something. This place has really good potential. And then maybe a month, year later, somebody purchases this dilapidated building or whatever it is, and suddenly everybody wants it. But then it's like most of us, even for you who's watching right now, sometimes you've encountered those times, and you've seen something and you've seen a place. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants the property. You look at it and you say, man, there's something. And you see the potential. You see that there's a threshold, a precipice. I mean, let me ask you a question. Who here would have loved to have been part of Bethel in Redding, California before it blew up, before it became what it is known today? I mean, who here would have been one of the people, perhaps, that decided to purchase a ticket for Randy Clark to go to Toronto? I mean, I would have. Or Heidi Baker. You know, that was a turning point. And I believe that we're in that precipice. We're in that threshold with MOW. And so the reason why the Lord told me to come here was to share this. And in order for this to happen, while I was at the conference, several nights later, I had a dream where I saw Danny and the people that were at the conference, but I ended up seeing the nets. These nets were being built, but then they were made out of wood. And so one of the things that even Will talked about was that we needed to pivot in the boat, like the way Jesus told his disciples to pivot and to go to the other side of the boat and cast out our net, and then to gather other people to come in so that we can be able to get the greater catch. Now, what is that catch if we cannot keep the catch? What is the catch if we cannot contain the catch? So this net is made out of the financial realm. And now let me explain this to you. Most of you already know this, okay? Faith is the currency of the spiritual realm. We understand that. We understand this. We know this. But do you know that also in the natural realm, money, okay, money is the currency. Everybody knows this. But how is it that, this thing here needs to happen with the support of all the leaders? Now, this is only for the leaders. I'm only sharing this to the leaders because I expect a higher responsibility. We expect a higher responsibility from that. Let me give you a story. The Holy Spirit asked me during this devotion, he asked me, he said, look, why is it that, the impartation was released through the apostles? Couldn't the Lord just do it? Couldn't he just zap all the, Stephen, even Paul, couldn't even just zap him and he's healing the sick and raising dead and doing all these things from the get-go? No, right? He could have done it. But in his wisdom, he he chose to do something. He said, look, I'm going to honor the leaders so that people will follow leaders and will listen to the leaders. So impartation comes through honor, right? So he allowed it to happen that way. He said, look, I'm going to trust them that they would choose by the process of the rock, the revelation of hearing the Lord, that he would choose the leaders, the deacons, the ones that he chose, the 7 people he chose. And Philip, they prayed for them. They were doing incredible things. That came through the apostles. So now in that same aspect, he's trusting leaders, right? Because we always want impartation from leaders. We want gifts, we want things. But then the Lord is trusting us as leaders to be able to support. I mean, look in the Acts of the Apostle. They had the fear of the Lord upon them. It was understood that when these things happened, they wanted to join them. It's actually the acts of the Holy Spirit through the apostles. They actually gave up everything and laid it at the apostles' feet. They gave up everything. And what the Lord is asking right now, he's just asking to make a commitment. You know, a commitment to mend the nets with a stronger bond. And this stronger bond requires not only spiritual things, but natural things. So we're asking right now, because I tell you this, I've known Danny since 2006. And Danny, when it comes to money and all these things, I haven't seen him send any emails or anything, oh, send me this and all. But you know what? The Lord revealed it to me. And when he was speaking to me about this, he said, look, I said, Lord, what is this thing about? And he says, there's properties involved, schools are involved. And I called him and I asked him, and he said, yeah, there's, you know, we're in the process of looking for a place. But the Lord had to supernaturally explain it to me, speak it through me, so that we'll be able to do this. So I'm asking right now that if you're a leader, right, because the Holy Spirit came to convict people of sin, but he also came to convict us of righteousness. This is the right thing to do. Because on this pivot point, in this turning point, this threshold, don't you want to be one of the ones that said, you know what, I was part of that. The giant will lift up, but he will not have enough food if we don't provide the power. He will lift up of New England, but then he still has to get up all the way south. Okay? When the babies are birthed, the revival babies are born, they have to be fed. When that young lady, Talitha Kumi, that 12-year-old that got up, the first thing that they said was give her food to eat. This giant is rising up in this moment. That's what I feel in my spirit. But it will need the spiritual and the natural. So I'm asking leaders to go ahead and make a commitment. Whatever it is, speak to your spouses, pray, fast, whatever you need to do, and start doing this. Because remember, when Graham Cook had prophesied to Danny and said, look, this is a prototype church, Danny asked him, says, oh, what is it going to look like? Said, I don't know, it's a prototype church. Well, in that thing, it's like, I don't know, it's like, we don't know how this financial thing was going to come together. We don't know how the meetings are going to come together. We don't know. I mean, he doesn't hold meetings on Sundays and collect or all this other stuff. So all these other things were left out in the blank. And so the Lord had to reveal it as we go. Nobody knows, but then that's the best part of it. So I'm asking that you would go ahead and make a commitment and say, okay, Lord, I'm going to go to the Mountain of Worship website, or I'm going to call Danny. I'm going to speak with him and say, look, what is the need? Or what is it that we need to do to meet this endeavor? And this is not just something that we're just saying, okay, you know what, let's go ahead and get together and put some money together to do this or do this. This is something that is going to fuel this revival. And it's bigger than the revival. It's bigger than myself. It's bigger than Danny. It's bigger than Mo. It's huge. So I just want to thank you right now for lending your ear to what the Spirit of the Lord is saying to the church. And I thank you for that. And I release right now the grace of the Lord to be able to give you the boldness and the fear of the Lord to be able to accomplish what the Lord is asking for us as leaders, which we're going to be held more accountable than anybody else because we are the one who teach. Thank you.